Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com. And today we're actually, forgive this visual because has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I haven't really made any visuals to go along with this or any infographics yet. But I've had quite, oh my goodness, I get asked this all the time and I just haven't made any content around it yet, mostly because it is so incredibly complicated. So this is probably going to be like a 15-minute long diatribe. And hopefully you'll pick something up on it. But the topic today is about, let's say you're a general dentist or a pediatric dentist or a DSO and you want to add orthodontics to your menu of services. You want to hire an orthodontist. What do you pay them? I get probably once a week, can you please help me find an orthodontist for my practice? And I go, whoa, pump the brakes. What's the opportunity? Because it's not just about money, because I don't help with opportunities that are not balanced. Not just balanced for you as the owner doctor or the corporation or the organization, but also balanced for the doctor as the opportunity, the orthodontist that comes in. And, I've been that orthodontist looking for opportunities. And I've been the owner looking to hire people. So I know what works and what doesn't work. So this is my suggestion, and it's complicated. So take it for what you will. So most of the doctors or corporations that I talk to, once I tell them this, they usually end up not doing it because they realize the level of complexity and the level of trouble they can get themselves into opening this gigantic can of worms, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Because if you're the owner, ultimately you're still responsible. And sure, you can do the whole 1099, hire somebody, this is their patients, but it never works out that way. So you're going to be responsible for these patients that get started. You as the owner, you as the organization. And if and when things fall through, which they always do, it's very rare that you're going to get someone that's going to stay around long term. You're going to have to pick up the pieces, and it's going to happen. So you need to be prepared for, once you open this can of worms, the can of worms can never be shut without losing a lot of money. So first of all, let's talk about the why. I see the opportunity. You're a general dentist, you have 8 chairs, you have 3 locations. Pediatric dentist, you're a DSO, you're tired of referring patients out. Maybe you have zero interest in learning ortho. I see the opportunity. Yeah, and there's an opportunity there, and there's a way to do it right. But ultimately, again, don't start anything that you can't do yourself. Now, if you know how to do all this yourself and you just choose not to, so if someone up and bails, you can pick up the pieces and continue, cover for them. That's totally fine. Then this is totally fine, okay? But if you can't, don't do it. Don't do it. Because hey, go ahead and do it, because people hire me to pick up their pieces for them and I get paid very well for it. So go ahead. But I'm telling you, you're going to regret it. Learn how to do it yourself first. And then if you decide, hey, I'd rather do surgeries, I'm not that into ortho, but I know how to do it if I need to, then that makes sense. Okay. So from an orthodontist perspective, what do I like? I'll tell you what I like, but it's not what I would do. So I want to get paid as much as possible on the front end, but that's not what I would do if I was the owner doctor. That's the biggest mistake you can do. Now, doctors are going to come in, they're going to ask for guaranteed minimums, they're going to ask for per diems plus bonus. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That's probably what you need to do. But you got to realize that ortho, there's a lot of moving parts to ortho, whether it's lab fees or it's braces or it's overhead. And every orthodontist doesn't necessarily, it's a long-term commitment to the patient, year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, plus retainer, which is a whole nother year that's still considered active. You really shouldn't be paying this doctor the full amount until it's done, braces off, aligners done, and the patient signed off a statement of satisfaction. And you as the owner doctor has also given your thumbs up on your statement of satisfaction. Because I've seen a lot of sloppy work done trying to get from A to Z in the fastest period of time. And then later, when the patient comes back and complains and things aren't done to standard of care, guess who's going to be refunding? You are, and you're not going to be able to get that money back. So it's okay to divide the revenue up into little bitty chunks and give it as you go. I think that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. let's say, for example, and first of all, you got to figure out, are you guys in network? Are you not in network? Is this cash? Is this not cash? I mean, there's all kind of things you got to think about. Let's say production on this Invisalign case or this braces case, let's say braces case, because general dentists tend to do Invisalign, is $5,000. Okay. So let's say it doesn't matter whether you're paying them as an employee or a 1099, regardless, everyone really is an employee unless it's a full 1099 situation, which means the doctor is bringing in their own team, their own supplies. That's a whole different story. And I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to you are providing everything. The doctor's just showing up, working on your patients kind of thing. In that case, they are an employee and you should pay them as so, because otherwise it's going to come back to slap you in the face later. So they're an employee. How are you going to pay them? Okay, well, let's say you're paying them. I mean, it's a normal 30 to 33%. I mean, I've gotten paid 25, I've gotten paid 28, I've gotten paid 30, I've gotten paid up to 50%. With the 50%, I was a true independent contractor. I brought my own team in. I think we split the supplies and we split the lab fees. I mean, it was okay. But they were kind of dumb. They paid me production on the front end it was collections. So patient came in, patient paid in full for that Invisalign of $55,000, then I got $2,500 at the start. Great, that's wonderful. Please do that, but that's dumb. Don't do that from an ortho doctor's perspective. I would divide it up into chunks. I would do collections, to be honest. I would do collections, not production, because with ortho insurance, I mean, it's really ultimately the doctor's responsibility to make sure that it's messy, because it's like, on one hand, I don't know if you've actually filed the paperwork, and I'm just going to trust because this is your doctor, you know how to file paperwork, but you guys shouldn't be starting cases if you need pre-auths. So, better just to get pre-auths on everybody if they are insurance, and if they're cash, okay, fine. But I would take that production, say 33%. Well, let's make it easier. I don't feel like doing math in my head today, but it's approximately what, $1,500, $1,400. And I would give them a third of that third at the start, a nice incentive for starting. Now you got to define the start. Okay. What is the start? The start to me is when everything's on, not one bracket, not front 4 brackets, not top arch brackets. All the brackets are on, all the teeth. There's my start. That's when you're going to get paid. You're going to need to put that in the contract. If you don't say that, start is when something goes on the teeth. I believe it or not, I've had offices where they've told me, oh, can you put one bracket on? It doesn't matter if it's not even the right bracket. Just put it on because that's a start. So for insurance purposes, that can be considered a start. But as the owner doctor, when all the braces are on all the teeth is what I would say. So that's when you get paid, the third of the third, right? So maybe they're getting $300 for doing that start. And then the next third of the third is going to come over, whether you do quarterly, it'll be much easier. Or however you want to do it. You want to do it monthly. They're not coming in monthly, so it's just a matter of making sure they're getting a paycheck, but however you're paying them. And then the last third of the third comes at debond. Not only debond when you take everything off, when you deliver the retainer, when the patient or the patient's parents have signed a statement of satisfaction that they are satisfied with the outcome. Retainers are delivered. You might even want to hold another 20% to give 6 months down the road, just to make sure everything's settled and everyone's satisfied and there's no complaints, because there's a lot of wiggle room. Or maybe you want to wait 60 days after the debond, because a lot of things can come up, right? Sometimes retainers have to be remade, and again, you have to go over what the lab fees are. There's a lot of orthos that are going to use a lot of lab fees, from Invisalign to appliances, and these things can be very pricey. So you might end up as an owner doctor with literally tens of thousands of dollars in lab fees. Maybe a third for the doctor, and you're paying 2/3. You might be losing money on this. So, you got to think about that. What are they buying? And then supplies as well. You can have a budget, but ultimately, if you don't have anything in the office, you got to figure you're going to be buying a lot of stuff. I've had doctors that have come in that they wanted the most expensive possible brackets. Well, sorry, you have a set budget. This is your start budget. I mean, I can probably start if they have no appliance, no pliers, no brackets, no nothing in your office, no nothing. I mean, you're gonna have to spend, bare minimum a couple $1,000s, and that's for pretty junky stuff, real basic stuff. That's even without the brackets. I mean, you got to be really realizing that you need to invest at least $5,000 to $10,000 to open ortho, and that's real basic. That's not even a scanner. You have to have a scanner. There's no way you can run ortho without an intraoral scanner, and a decent one too. So now you're at 40, 50,000 to start ortho. If you don't have a scanner, and maybe 5 to 10 if you have a scanner. I mean, it's a pretty big investment. You need to meet with your doctor. I mean, I've met with doctors before, coming in as the ortho, where I'm like, this is what I need, and I give them my order list, and it's a couple thousand. Usually they're pretty cool. But I mean, ultimately, you want to give them a budget to stay within, and then a budget quarterly, and they have to keep everything under the budget, But, I always had some type of budget based on what I produced, but sometimes, you have to get stuff. So, other things to think about. What type of brackets are they using? If they're using some type of wackadoodle prescription, it needs to be something pretty standard. 018 Roth, 022 Roth, 018 MBT, 022 MBT. Whatever they start, you're going to have forever. So whatever additional doctors you need to bring in later, this one leaves, this one retires, this one has a baby, someone needs to come in, someone needs to cover for them, their dad died. They need to know how to use this system. And the bracketing needs to be pretty good. So there's been enough times where I've had to come in to cover for people, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I can't deal with this. I have to rip all the brackets off. I have to put them all back on with my type of brackets. This is going to happen. It's going to be an unfortunate additional expense that you're going to need to deal with. It's very unlikely that a new doctor you bring into a new practice is probably going to stay. You're going to have a ridiculous amount of turnover. It's just going to happen. Unless you just have resources just to pay them royally to keep them, they're not probably going to stay. They're going to start their own practice if they're a go-getter, if they're good at it. And if they're not that good, then they might stay, but you may not want them to stay, right? I mean, why would they? I would never go into a practice unless they guaranteed me 2 staff and at least 3 to 4 chairs, full time. This is like, and let's say they're coming in on a Wednesday, they can give you every Wednesday, from 10 to 7. That's fine, but it happens. Sometimes you have to make sure all your patients know that ortho's on Wednesdays. What happens when that patient's schedule changes and they can no longer come on Wednesday? It's going to happen more often than you know. What are you going to do? You're going to have to give a partial refund. Your patients are going to be so mad, And unless you have some type of contract where you tell them you agree to come on Wednesdays between these hours, what are you going to do when the patient can't come anymore? It's going to happen. What are you going to do when that doctor no longer can do Wednesdays? Their kid's schedule changed. They can only give you Thursdays now. Every single one of those patients is going to be mad, and you're going to have to placate them and take care of them and possibly cover their ortho to go elsewhere. It's going to be very expensive. I told you this is going to be overwhelming because I'm going to go over every possible thing that's going to go wrong and can and will go wrong. So unless you like this idea, don't do it. Unless it's a full-time deal. In any case, and then you have to have a manager running it, and you got to have team members. And then, as the ortho, I'm not coming into office unless you have staff that know what they're doing. Like, they're really good. So they can't be general staff. They have to be ortho staff, or at least extremely cross-trained, That's not going to work for me. I'm not doing the work. That's not possible. I'm there to do the treatment plan. I'm not there to be the hands, because it's a waste of my talents. And I'm going to not come into an office unless I have minimum 3 to 4 chairs. Well, if you're giving them that many chairs, maybe general's not in the office. But now I'm going to tell you what's going to happen is that patients are going to want to come in on a day when general's in the office, because they're going to want to get their cleanings, and they're going to want to get their wires out, and they're going to want to get their wires back in. So it doesn't really work to go on independently when general's not there. You have to have both there. So if you have enough seats to have you both there at one time, that works really well. That does work well, because then every possible ortho consult that's there, they can see and they can start and do a lot of same day starts. Now that works, but you have to have probably a bare minimum of 5 to 6 chairs to make that happen. It's not going to work in a small office. Goodness, what else? Okay, so we went over most of that. I also recommend doing the employee status, because you want to have some control over what's done, how things are done. Okay. Because if you just do them 1099 status, they can and they will do whatever they want, procedures, taking patients they shouldn't be taking. I would put limitations on what type of cases you want in the office, because when the doctor's not there, you're going to still be responsible for all the emergencies that happen. Your office, your team is going to be responsible. They can't wait a week. And if your doctor's doing all kind of weird surgical exposures, I'm not saying that's weird because it's normal for ortho, but if they're doing all kind of stuff that you don't know how to fix when it breaks, it is your job as the owner doctor. You have to provide the emergency services. So if you don't know what you're doing, again, now you're in trouble. You're in trouble, not the ortho. You need to know how to handle these issues when they come up. So do you want to have second molar exposures, and do you want to have canine exposures, and do you want to have jaw surgery cases? Because these are part of ortho. You know, it's okay if you say you can come in, we're only going to treat simple class 1, class 2 cases, simple. No negative, no, I don't want protraction face mask. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying you need to say what you don't know what to do so that when emergencies come in, or maybe you want to, there's doctors that are really into like more fixed stuff, fixed expanders, Jasper jumpers, Herbst appliances, fixed, banded, distalizers. Okay, but those things are going to break and you're going to have, and that's an actual emergency that you need to see. If they're more removables, then it's more compliance based. So no real emergencies, they can wait a week. But when things break or get lost, you're going to have to rescan and make new things. You can't wait another week and then another week, otherwise things are going to go out of control. So, you know, you need to be willing to handle the emergency stuff when the orthodontist isn't there. And it bands, things break, brackets break, wires get pokey. It's going to take time out of, you know, and out of you and your team's schedule. I mean, for every 10 ortho patients, I mean, Invisalign doesn't have any real emergencies because all you have to do is go in and reorder a tray, you know, which can be done online. That's easy. That's why it makes things clean. But the more you start dealing with fixed, the more real emergencies you're going to have. And sometimes they're real emergencies. So, you know, a doctor needs to handle it, fix it. In any case, that's why a lot of DSOs, they always have an ortho RDA on staff, you know, every single day that they're open to handle the ortho emergencies. That is their priority. And when ortho's not there, they might be helping with other stuff, you know, or they're doing admin, but they're always there. Now that works. That was me, the only way that I would say it's a good idea, you know, because at least it's not, and have a designated room that's always there for ortho, you know, and you can use it for overflow or for consults or whatever for general, but it's set up for ortho and it's ready to go when the ortho patients come in, including the emergencies. So in any case, I think you get the idea of how complex it can be, not only with payments, with emergencies, with transfers, with new doctors, with days. It's not as easy as you think. So let's put it that way. And it's complicated. So hopefully this was helpful. I don't think it's necessarily what you wanted to hear. And for that reason, I generally don't help other doctors find orthodontists for their practice, because very rarely, if almost never, does anyone have it set up in a way that's going to work for the orthodontist. They're going to say minimum $2,000 a day, minimum $1,500 a day, guaranteed. I mean, how do I know you're going to fill my schedule? You know, unless you're concurrently running general at the same time and they can hop over and see all those patients, you know, then that makes sense, you know. So that would be a situation that I'd feel comfortable with. But solo by myself, you know, how do I know you're going to give me a real trained staff? How do I know I'm going to have all the supplies I'm going to need? So anyways, all right, hopefully that was helpful. Thanks so much.